Now let's move to the next question. Let's talk about the level of development. As you can imagine, the Belt and Road countries, they vary based on their level of development. For example, their political systems are different, the cultural difference, the economic difference. How can we foster cooperation between these countries to develop tourism together?
Well, I think you've touched on here one of the fundamental problems in the expansion of the Belt and Road Initiative, because existing now in the world, different countries have different levels of development. And I'm using the word development here economically, socially, culturally, and sometimes politically as well. So, the level, if you like, is a multi-dimensional phenomena. That's the first point. The second thing is this. Let's assume you run a high-speed railway into a country and then somewhere else. Now, the fact that you have a better access doesn't necessarily stimulate development, because you come onto this area which is not always discussed, but I think is fundamentally important, and that's the question of policy. Because what you find in any country you want to look at now in the world, that tourism has different priorities. So in China, it's regarded as a pillar industry, a serious industry. If you like, in most European countries, the earnings and the impacts of tourism make it about 3 or 4 in most of the European economies. In African economies, you find that the earnings of foreign exchange, which is often the major barrier to development, not enough money to buy the expertise you need for development. Tourism is essential in addressing that particular thing. So again, when I say you need a policy, then the other thing you have to recognize that different countries have different political systems. So if you looked at China as an example, then the development of China, not just in tourism, but development straightforwardly, is driven by the government. It's a centralized system. In many countries, say in Europe, it tends to be driven by the private sector with the support of government, of course. In many African countries, it's beginning to change. Traditionally, it was always government, but now, as tourism develops, and as the private sector sees more opportunities, not just for foreign investment, but for local investment, the balance is shifting. So one of the things I think in developing tourism as as a very important aspect of the Belt and Road, must be the ability, particularly of the Chinese government, to offer support in policy initiatives. Because whatever the country is, there is no country in the world which is rich enough to develop all its potential. So one of the big questions would be, what do we develop first in tourism? What is it that makes us competitive? Why would people come to our country? And then once you make that decision, the other side of the decision, of course, is how do your community, how does the location of that development react to it? So there's two sides. There's the investment side, there's the reaction side, and there's the impact side. But without any doubt, I think many of these countries are going to need substantial help and support in crafting a policy for tourism which supports national policy and doesn't conflict with it.
Thank you. And Professor Han, what is Pakistan's experience in working with China on tourism-related issues?
There is not such starting on the tourism sector, but as Professor had discussed the development sector from the government side and from the private side, I will say that through CPEC, now if you can just go to Pakistan, you will see that private sector is getting more interested in, especially in the tourism and hospitality sector, such as Hyatt, that is a national brand, hotelier brand, and PC and Marriott and Hotel One and different international restaurants chains. They are investing hugely in Pakistan, and though a few years ago when people was talking about Pakistan, so there was a parade that there is terrorism and things like that. But when the China government has taken this initiative and just they started work in Pakistan, so Pakistan's get back to the situation and bounce back. And now everywhere in Pakistan, as Professor talked about socially, so our people is accepting it socially, and there is a huge rally from China to Pakistan, and a lot of Chinese people come to Pakistan, and people welcome them wholeheartedly, even just ask them to come to their homes and join them. So for me, China and Pakistan is always just two parts of one body. So there is, for Pakistani people and Chinese are just like brothers and sisters. There will be no issue relating to Pakistan. But there are, with the other countries, there must be some problems, there are some critiques of this China-Pakistan Economic Corridor and BRB. So China will face serious issues in other regions. For example, now the case of Afghanistan, so that is in the hold of India nowadays and US. So that will make things some little bit different, but hopefully with the passage of time, because BRB, as I mentioned earlier, that it is offering to every country, maybe some a bit high, maybe to some a bit low, but it is offering benefits to everyone. It's create a win-win situation for the countries. So now in the beginning there was only 30-40 countries, and now you can see 72 countries has signed agreements for BRB. So it means that every country think that it is a way of development, it is a way of earning foreign exchange, it is a way of making their society more social. I'm saying using this word social because people, when the cross-cultural things happens, exchange happens, so people get more, that their mind get developed and they get more socially developed. So BRB is not only a plan for economic development, it is for social development, it is for cultural development, and it will bring fruits in different areas.